The system currently practiced in the Western democracies ensures only in a highly imperfect manner that the most suitable persons, in the spiritual sense, rule the community and its institutions. You see for yourselves, by means of countless examples, all too often those politicians are elected who make the greatest promises, even though it is obviously impossible to honor them. Or those who burden the community irresponsibly with debts, because they do not get along with what the taxpayers entrust to them, but do not dare to increase taxes. All too often, those who enforce necessary but painful reforms are not re-elected. From the standpoint of unity, evolution, and spiritual reality, the idea of a democracy is inadmissible. How can a democracy, with all the power in the hands of a people, the majority of whom are not even evolved to the point where they are capable of perceiving their own natural positions in the scale of life, have the right to pick from their number some person of whose rightful position they are equally ignorant, and place him in a position which they are equally incapable of comprehending, and expect anything but division, discontent, and final rebellion as a result? Everyone, especially the so-called ordinary people, is well aware that the courting for the favor of the masses in election campaigns and the relying in vital decisions on opinion polls rather than on iron principles is a disgrace for a civilized society. I must confess that no other system makes me feel so indignant as the present way a head of a government is elected by ignorant masses. I saw enough of this most abominable and criminal comedy. Bribery, we are told, is illegal, yet in such a responsible, sacred act as the election of a head of a country, great sums are spent, and even the most obvious bribery is practiced, to say nothing of other proceedings which are equally disgusting. Common sense should tell us that the ignorant masses who are impelled by their lower instincts cannot be the judges of the highest. The right of electing the head of a government should belong only to a highly moral, therefore cultured and educated people, or representatives of the people of a country. But, unfortunately, in an epoch when it is most necessary to have the best and most trustworthy people at the head of affairs, the power of the masses prevails. However, history shows again and again it has the most terrible consequences for a community when it entrusts power to adventurous or to impure, crude, unworthy, or ignorant leaders. Above all else, I am concerned with the imbalance of the world. Many countries are governed by madmen in the fullest meaning of the word. Never before has this manifestation of mass obsession occurred. Let us finally recognize the fate of a company or of a whole nation is depending almost entirely on the purity and wisdom of the person who leads it. The success of a whole nation depends upon the quality of the psychic energy of its leader. The quality of life depends on the integrity of the leaders. Furthermore, there is a number of existential questions in the political, economic, medical and technical area which cannot seriously be decided by voting. Is the participation in a war, abortion, euthanasia, industrial livestock farming, nuclear power, genetic engineering, or a specific medical technology admissible or not? For these and many other questions, the vote of the majority is simply no suitable criterion for decision. The modern democracy that approves the leadership which issues from the crowds fails all tests. Do not please regard us as extremists who want to overthrow the existing order. Democracy is a necessary stage of development that all nations have to go through, and which corresponds to today's level of consciousness. We are talking about the direction in which progress must be made, the goal we should aim at in the long run, step by step, without revolutionary or violent revolts. We are asking how our society will be governed in hundreds of years from now, when mankind has reached one step further and will consist of immortals. Democracy may be the only acceptable ideal to the masses of the people of the present age, and so be relatively right and wise. But it is not right or wise from the standpoint of the higher self, and a democracy could not persist among men who had reached the highest point of development in their individual evolutionary cycles. The form of government of the future must make sure that in all social institutions, on all levels, those persons exercise power who are spiritually the most advanced and thus nearest to the higher world. Only in this way can the will of God be realized on earth. The right of leadership belongs to a spirit linked with the forces of light. Therefore, according to the higher law, there can be no accidental leaders. Only by the re-establishing of the hierarchical line it may be accomplished to place in positions of power those who are spiritually fitted for the exercise of power. Those will be given responsibility who, according to their character, education, and past life, are qualified, and who, by the responsibility carried so far, have proven that they are able to serve selflessly the common good and to recognize, as well as to enforce on earth, the higher evolutionary will. The best executor will be the one closest to hierarchy. The hierarchy of service is but the manifestation of the fulfillment of the higher will. Are you not tired of being led by people who do not know any better than you yourself? Do not you too long for true leadership? Nations are realizing that life is wearisome without a hero. Everywhere one can see this longing for powerful leadership in cultural, in social, and in governmental life. Who will decide better and who knows better? Only the hierarch. Plato described this evolutionary aim of a philosopher's kingship, a rule of the sages, more than 2,000 years ago in his book, The Republic. Until philosophers are kings, or the kings and princes of this world have the spirit and power of philosophy, and political greatness and wisdom meet in one, and those commoner natures who pursue either to the exclusion of the other are compelled to stand aside. Cities will never have rest from their evils. This ideal is as valid today as at all times. The wise man sees that the people must return to the original form, the paternal, the kingly form of government, again and again. Those who possess knowledge, the spiritual ones, must exercise or at least control power. Ruler and supreme priest become once again one, as in ancient Egypt, where for thousands of years a hierarchy of initiates directed all the affairs of the community. And again, as in the most ancient times of priesthood's prime, but in a popular application, the fire of knowledge will begin to shine. There the priests named the Pharaoh, who was himself an initiate, or at least their disciple, and ruled the nation by the power of their spirit. Heads of state formally combined their work with the highest spiritual duties. The words we use, the old and the new one, clearly show what we are talking about. From democracy, the rule of the people, we come to hierarchy, the supremacy of the saints, the initiates. Instead of the ignorant masses, the sages will lead the way. This implies, on the one hand, that people are ready to voluntarily subordinate themselves to the masters. On the other hand, the saints must be prepared to exercise power in the material world and to acquire such respect that they can be accepted as an authority. It is right that reverence for the Guru be the firm foundation of an entire people. This thinking is unfortunately still unfamiliar to the men of our time. But someday, in the worst case through suffering, he will recognize his intellectual arrogance, which leads him to believe that he knows everything better than everyone else, and that he is qualified to take part in decisions on everything, everywhere, is unfounded. In reality, he is not able to recognize the way out in most cases. The more honest among the citizens know very well that they can be glad when wiser men relieve them of the most vital decisions.